Like, subscribe and share Tree Fanfiction audiobook channel for next part. Chapter 74. He got hurt. It looks like he's seriously injured. After all, his opponent is also a powerful giant and should not be underestimated. Looking at Dory's condition, Luffy and others couldn't help but talk about it. However, they didn't have any bad intentions, they were more curious and surprised. He is a giant after all. This is almost a legendary existence. Who? At this time, Dory also noticed the movement on the ground. He suddenly opened his eyes, and his eyes were immediately locked on where Ron and others were. We mean no harm. We are adventurers who happen to be passing by here. Being locked onto Dory, Ron felt a shock all over his body. Although he was seriously injured, he still felt extremely depressed and uneasy. Thinking of this, Ron quickly said that he meant no harm. Yet, we have no ill intentions towards you, we are just here out of curiosity. This is the first time we have seen a giant, and it is such a powerful being, so we come here to be friends with you. At this time, Luffy and others also came to their senses and began to express their goodwill. Joke. Being targeted by such a powerful giant, they didn't think they would be able to deal with Dory at this moment if they took action. Is that so? He frowned and glanced at Ron and others. Indeed, these guys are very weak and not enough to pose a threat to themselves. Thinking of this, Dory didn't mean to kill them all. He waved his hand and said, "In that case, you can go. We don't have a good impression of humans, and we don't need to be friends with you." Hearing this, Luffy and others immediately lowered their heads in disappointment. After all, they were rejected, which also meant that the possibility of them wanting to communicate with the giant was gone. Thinking of this, they didn't stay any longer and turned around to leave. Wait a moment. At this time, Ron spoke quietly. Immediately afterwards, he jumped up and arrived at a big tree in the area in front of Dory. After barely being able to let him see him, Ron said without any nonsense, "Dory, I want to make a deal with you." Ron. Seeing this situation, LUFFY997 and others on the ground were stunned. Unexpectedly, Ron actually stepped forward and even offered to make a deal with him. To be honest, they were extremely nervous inside. After all, Dory had just said that they were not allowed to disturb him. If he was angered, then... Who are you? How do you know my name? As expected, Dory's face suddenly became ugly at this moment. A pair of eyes stared fixedly at Ron, and a sense of murder gradually began to flow out of his body. Not good. Feeling the murderous intent of the other party, Ron groaned secretly in his heart. But he didn't care so much at the moment. After taking a deep breath, he immediately said, "I know what the situation is between you and Broggy. I also know that both of you are afraid that the other will be punished by death when he returns. In this case, I am willing to help you negotiate. After so many years, there is no need for you to worry about returning to the Giant Kingdom. The most important thing is that I know that you were deceived by Big Mom to reveal the sword skills of the giants. I can promise you that as long as I am strong enough, I will help you kill Big Mom." Having said this, Ron took a deep breath and tried to calm down. At this point, he can only choose to take the wrong path. In this case, he must get help from two people. It's not that he really planned on the sword skills of the two. After all, his next major is to draw the sword and slash, and combined with the super speed force mode, the other sword skills have no value. But Dory and Broggy are giants and members of the former giant pirates, so they will definitely haki. The next goal is to deal with Crocodile, as the latter will be easily dealt with. Therefore, it is particularly important to learn haki, or at least master haki's cultivation method. What do you want? After a short silence, Dory's murderous intent gradually subsided, and then he stared at Ron and asked. He didn't care if Ron really had the ability to kill Big Mom. "I don't care if I can return to the Giant Kingdom." As Ron said, the thing he cares about is Bragi. Affa. The two of them met to fight here, and he wanted to prevent the other party from going back to die. Because of this, he persisted in fighting Bragi for so many years, but he did not use his full strength. If Ron can really convince Bragi to give up the idea of going back, that will definitely be the best news for him. It's done. Hearing this, Ron breathed a sigh of relief. He knew that he had made the right bet. Although the misunderstanding between the two parties was not resolved due to injury as in the original work, both Bragi and Dori cared about each other extremely deeply. Thinking of this, Ron immediately said, "Two-color haki training method. I want you to master the two-color haki training method. Of course, as a great swordsman, it would be great if you could give some advice on my companion's sword practice. How to practice haki? What is haki?" Hearing this, Luffy and others on the ground looked at each other. I have no idea what Ron needs, and I even feel doubtful and confused from the bottom of my heart. Zoro was the only one excited. He didn't know what haki was, but there was no doubt that Ron's request was to take him with him. He even wanted to ask the giant swordsman to give him some advice. This was simply, "No, I'm not a great swordsman." However, at this moment, Dori also shook his head and said, "Brgy and I are just creating projects. If we want to become great swordsmen, we don't have the qualifications. The reason why we look as good as the great swordsman is because we are both giants." With a raised brow, Ron's eyes flashed with surprise. These two people were actually just swordsmen, which really shocked him. After all, the sword energy that stood out before divided the sea. If it is not a great swordsman, it can be seen how terrifying the secret skills of the giants are. But I can also give you the two-color haki training method you need. Before Ron could recover, Dori spoke quietly. "Real?" Hearing this, Ron's body trembled. He didn't care to think about the swordsman and the great swordsman, and stared at Dori with piercing eyes at the moment, his eyes full of excitement. After all, once he really gets the two-color haki training method, he can complete the training ahead of time. As long as you can really master all of this, it will be much easier to deal with Crocodile, and you won't really have no resistance when facing the strong Logia. But before Ron could speak, Dori said again, "You have to make Bragi promise not to go back first. As long as he agrees to this, I will give you the two-color haki training method you need." Obviously, although Dori was moved, he did not choose to believe it directly. "Good." Nodding, Ron did not hesitate at this moment. After all, compared to the two-color haki training method, everything else is unimportant. And as a time traveler, he knew better that the two of them had such thoughts about each other. It's just that they were worried about each other's face, so they didn't tell the story, and even made an agreement that the winner must be decided. Thinking of this, Ron immediately said, "I will do this now. But Dori, can my partner stay with you for a while? They have no ill intentions towards you, they are just curious about seeing a giant for the first time, and they have no ill intentions towards you." "Can?" Hearing this, Dori glanced at Luffy and others on the ground, who were staring at him with bright eyes, and after a little pondering, he agreed. He really didn't sense any malice from Luffy and others. The most important thing is that if Ron can really accomplish this, he can be said to be his friend and benefactor. Thinking of this, Dori said directly, "In that case, just don't disturb me." "Thank you." Hearing this, Ron smiled even more. Knowing that Dori had agreed, he returned to the area where Luffy and others were. "Ron! Ron!" At this time, Luffy and others quickly stepped forward. After arriving at Ron's side, they asked with great curiosity, "What is the two-color haki training method you asked for?" "Ron, what is this haki you are talking about?" Faced with the inquiry, Ron had no intention of hiding it at this moment, and directly explained, "The so-called haki is an extremely powerful means of fighting enemies, and it is also a skill that only the strong can practice in the true sense." This is information I accidentally got from Marine. Haki is divided into 3 types: Conqueror's Haki, Observation Haki, and Armament Haki. Among them, Conqueror's Haki cannot be cultivated one day after tomorrow. He is a being who is born only one among millions of people. He is a man who is destined to become a king. Observation Haki is an extremely powerful technique. It can predict the opponent's attack trajectory, route and actions in advance to avoid it. It can even truly predict the future after reaching a high level. The last Armament Haki, this is the means we all desperately lack now. At this point, Ron paused. After giving Luffy and others some time to accept, he continued, Armament Haki is a pass that truly belongs to the strong. Once mastered, you can cover yourself with Haki, strengthen your defense and attack power, and even it can be covered on blades and bullets. Once Armament Haki is attached, the elementalization of Logia Devil Fruit is meaningless, unless the latter detects that your attack is elementalized in advance, otherwise it will cause direct damage once it is hit. It can be said that once we master Armament Haki, we will truly have the ability to threaten Logia, including when dealing with natural conditions, and we will not be as tricky and embarrassed as before. Gudu. Hearing this, Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji all couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Without him. If this is the case, then Armament Haki will be really useful to them. Extremely huge. Especially after their previous results were on par with Smoker, this method is even more exciting. Although they had suffered 3 defeats before, everyone knew what the actual situation was. Luffy and Zoro were able to tie with each other only after they teamed up. This shows that the gap is so huge. If you learn Armament Haki, you don't need to find the sea water by tricks, and you can truly fight with Logia users like Smoker. Very good. There is such a magical existence. If this is true, Armament Haki is really extremely important to us. For a moment, Luffy and others spoke one after another, their eyes full of excitement and anticipation. Ron, wouldn't I be restrained? At this time, Nami also spoke with some sadness. After all, according to what Ron said, the weapon color is simply Logia's elemental attack method, which is not a good thing. No need to worry. Hearing this, Ron smiled lightly, looked at Nami and said, don't forget what I just said about Observation Haki. You can definitely practice it. If your own knowledge reaches a higher level, you can activate elementalization before the opponent attacks you, even if it covers Armament Haki. It makes no sense either. The most important thing is that if you can cultivate your vision to the point where you can foresee the future, then the other party's attack will not pose any threat to you. That's it. Nodding thoughtfully, Nami's expression improved a little. As Ron said, as long as you elementalize in advance, there is nothing you can do about the weapon color. In the final analysis, this is Haki's mutual development and mutual restraint. Although I feel sorry for Logia's elementalization, there is no doubt that Haki is indeed a method that needs to be mastered and practiced. Alright. Seeing that there were no problems with the others, Ron didn't intend to stay any longer. He clapped his hands and said, you guys can talk to Dory here. I'm going to find Broggy. After handling this matter as soon as possible, get Haki's training method first. After saying that, he didn't linger, turned around and headed towards Broggy. Seeing this, Luffy and others did not stop him, but curiously walked toward Dory not far away. Especially Zoro. Although Dory was not a great swordsman, the fact that the swordsman could perform such terrifying slashes still made him feel awe and curiosity, and he immediately stepped forward to ask Dory about it. Kendo Problem. Chapter 75. On the other end, Ron was speeding rapidly. Not long after, he arrived at Broggy's area. Looking at it, Broggy's situation is almost the same as Dory's. At this moment, they are all sitting in front of a bonfire, fully recovering from their wounds. In order not to fight with him as soon as possible, the two of them did not even try to recover after being injured, did not use drugs, and did not even use the most basic bandaging. It's really a close connection. But it just so happens that it means that the setting of the original work has not been destroyed. In this way, if I act as a lobbyist and talk it out completely, the conflict between the two people will completely disappear. I can also take this opportunity to obtain the two-color haki training method. The corner of Ron's mouth raised, and with a thought, Ron stepped on moonwalk and appeared directly in the area in front of Bragi, and said, "Bragi, who are you?" Seeing Ron's appearance, Bragi frowned slightly, looking a little unkind. As a being who was deceived by Big Mom in the past, Bragi is distrustful and even hostile towards human beings. Now that Ron appeared here, he immediately grasped the knife beside him, as if he was ready to take action at any time. "Don't do it!" Seeing this, Ron's expression froze and he quickly shouted, "I'm not here to cause trouble for you. I'm not here to attack you either. I just came from Dori, and I have something to discuss with you." Dori. Hearing this, Bragi looked at Ron with even more suspicion. After all, he knew very well that Dori, like himself, was extremely hostile to human existence and logically should not have anything to do with humans. But looking at Ron's vow, Bragi was a little confused as to what the situation was. After pondering for a while, Bragi then spoke, "Then why did you come here?" "Hey!" Seeing this, Ron breathed a sigh of relief. As long as Bragi doesn't do anything, that's a good thing. Without hesitation, Ron said directly, "That's right, I'm here to clear up the misunderstanding between you two." "Why?" "Brgy, you may not know that Dori doesn't want to fight you, and when he fights you, he leaves a lot of tricks unused. It's not because he looks down on you, but because he doesn't want to defeat you, nor does he want you to go back to the kingdom of the Hyuxia to die." As soon as these words came out, Bragi's pupils shrank. Not for anything else, because Ron's words shocked his heart. Not only was Dori hiding his strength like him, but the most important thing was that the latter had the same idea as him, not wanting the other party to go back and die after failure. For a moment, Bragi's heart was complicated, and his eyes were full of strong doubts. "Are you serious about what you said?" Dori really said that?" "Yes." Nodding, Ron raised the corner of his mouth and said, "If it wasn't true, then I wouldn't be here. Because we all saw the scene of the duel between you before, and everyone can see that you are holding back each other. So I infer that you don't want the latter to lose and go back to die, so that the tie will always be maintained. Dori cares about your existence, and you also care about Dori's existence. So, I want to help you resolve this matter. There is no need to continue fighting each other. Life is short, and you can live together in Little Garden. So many years have passed, and the giants have not caused any trouble for you. This means that there is no intention to pursue the matter that year, or that you workers have been occupied by them. Under such circumstances, as long as you don't take the initiative to go out to sea to make trouble, there will be no problem at all and you can continue to live here." Rumble. Rumble. Just as Ron was talking, suddenly there was a roar in the distant area. Immediately afterwards, you can see explosions resounding in the direction of Dori and others, and fire shooting into the sky. It seems that someone is fighting in that area. What's the situation? Is there an invasion? With a raised brow, Ron's face suddenly turned ugly, and he flew into the sky at a quick pace. Looking down into the distance, he could vaguely see that the area where the battle was taking place was actually the area where Dori was. For a moment, Ron was a little angry. "I am about to succeed. Is this the blind guy who is here to cause trouble?" Burning with anger, Ron immediately floated down to the ground and said, "Bragi, someone invaded Xiaohuayu, the target should be Dori, I won't waste time here, I will go first. Dori's injury is very serious and it will be difficult to recover in a short time. If the intruder is too strong, that will be the most dangerous." After saying that, Ron didn't linger and turned into a streak of light and flew away into the distance. Dori. At the same time, Rocky has also come to his senses. Glancing at Ron who was leaving, he was also deeply touched. Although he didn't know who was attacking, it was about Dory's life and death. How could he remain indifferent? Almost instantly, Rocky took off his clothes and bandaged his wounds. Then, he stood up, picked up the knife and walked forward. Soon, Ron had returned to Dory's area. It can be seen that a large number of pirates appear here at this moment. Their target is undoubtedly Dory, but at this moment they are also blocked by Luffy and others. Among this group of people, Ron even saw many members and cadres from the Baroque Working Society. The leader among them is surprisingly Mr. 3. It's actually them. Seeing this scene, Ron's face suddenly became extremely ugly. In the original work, it was Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine who came here. But these two men had been killed by Ron at Whiskey Peak before. I thought that people from Baroque Works would not come here again, but I didn't expect that it would happen anyway. There were even a lot of people coming, and the leader was that Paramecia Candle Fruit Power user M3. It seems that even if I change some things, the underlying trend cannot be changed. The Baroque Co. Limited has to deal with the giant, and it will continue to happen even without Miss Valentine. Court death. Thinking of this, Ron's murderous intention became even stronger. After all, he finally had to convince Bragi, and soon the two of them would be reconciled, and his two-color haki training method would be available. Now that it was actually destroyed by M3's men, how could he remain indifferent? The next second, Ron's figure appeared within the battlefield. Discharge 10 million volts. Almost instantly, Ron raised his hand, aimed at the members of the Baroque Working Club below, and launched an attack. In an instant, dark blue lightning swept out. Under Ron's control, the dark blue lightning fell directly into the crowd, even affecting those people. Ah! DB! For a time, a steady stream of screams resounded. A discharge of tens of millions of volts is extremely destructive and lethal. This also caused the ordinary members of the Baroque Working Group to be completely unable to resist. They fell to the ground one by one, and even if they didn't die, they were already disabled. The only pity is that he is Paramecia. Although a discharge of tens of millions of volts was exerted, the range was only about 10 meters, which was completely unable to achieve the true large-scale destruction like Logia. Ron! Ron! Seeing this, Luffy and others who were fighting with Mr. B and others also became energetic. I never expected that Ron would come back so soon. And under such circumstances, with Ron's suppression, those guys couldn't get close to the weak Dory. Rubber rubber bazooka. Almost instantly, Luffy became angry. With no worries anymore, he raised his hands and attacked Mr. 3 without hesitation. At the same time, Zoro and Sanji were also fighting with the cadres of the Baroque Working Group. Usopp and Nami set up a defense line next to Dory, using flaming clouds to block the approach of other marines. Usopp kept sniping at the enemy. Guys from Baroque Works, you deserve to die. At this time, Ron had already floated to the ground and arrived at the venue. After glancing at the densely packed pirate figures around him, Ron immediately pulled out the snow from his waist and walked away. Speed Force open. With a low growl, Ron immediately activated the speed calendar. Although not as good as the Super Speed Force, with the blessing of the Speed Force, Ron's own speed has increased by more than 7 or 8 times. Under such circumstances, Ron's figure was like lightning passing through the crowd, and the electric light danced and bloomed with cold light. The snow in his hand turned into the sickle in Shinigami's hand at this moment, frantically harvesting the lives of every member of the Baroque Work Club. Zero, please give me flowers. OB. For a time, screams resounded continuously. As more and more companions died, the members of the surrounding Baroque Working Society also panicked. He never expected that Ron would be so terrible with Yamato. The most important thing was that Ron's attack was so fast that it was impossible for them to resist it. Under such circumstances, the members of the Baroque working group were also afraid, and even began to gradually retreat, not daring to approach Ron at all. Many people even picked up their guns and pointed them at Ron and pulled the trigger. Bang bang bang! In an instant, countless bullets swept out. Unfortunately, Ron's figure had disappeared before those bullets even came close. This also resulted in all their attacks failing, and Ron broke into the crowd again and continued to harvest lives. Damn it! I won't fight. This guy is a monster. He is worthy of being a supernova with a bounty of 300 million belly. He is really too powerful. Even MR3 is no match for him. Let's leave quickly, otherwise we will die here today. As he spoke, a large number of figures retreated and quickly fled towards the outer area. Zero. Joke. In the face of a murderous god like Ron, no one is willing to take personal risks, and no one is willing to continue to be an enemy of a monster like Ron. Want to leave? However, will Ron let them escape? Just because these guys messed up. After revealing his plan, he was completely furious at the moment. Almost instantly, Ron accelerated to give chase. Kid, get out of the way. Suddenly, a loud shout resounded. The next second, Ron felt a crisis coming, and without hesitation activated the super speed force, speeding up his speed dozens of times, and quickly retreated to the area where the Straw Hat Pirates and others were. At this moment, Broggy could be seen walking forward from the trees not far away. With every step he gets closer, the aura on his body will grow. Soon, he had arrived at the venue, his eyes were locked on the pirates who were about to escape, and he directly raised the knife in his hand and shouted, "If you dare to attack Dory, you will all be punished." 3T. The secret skill of the giant's powerful country. In an instant, Broggy raised the knife in his hand, pointed it at the area where the pirates were escaping, and swung it. The next second, the sword light illuminated the sky, directly lighting up the night. At this moment, the huge sword energy fell, immediately flooding the direction in which the group of pirates were escaping. Rumble! Rumble! A deafening roar resounded, and a bottomless sword mark was directly cut out of the island, with countless seawater surging towards it. Within the area of this gap, the pirates from the Baroque Limited are all dead, and there is not even the slightest possibility of survival. This scene immediately frightened Mr. 3, Miss Golden Week, Miss Merry Christmas and others who were fighting against Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji. Terrible. Broggy's knife was really terrifying. Although it was not aimed at him and others, it still made them all feel the danger of death. At this moment, their inner emotions collapsed. I never expected that I would encounter the Straw Hat Pirates in Little Garden, and I never expected that the two giants here would be so terrifying. Broggy was even still injured, but he was able to easily perform that terrifying slash. How terrifying and shocking this was! For a time, their inner emotions were completely unbearable. Withdraw! Get out of here! Operation Little Garden cancelled. These two guys are too scary and cannot be compared to us. Almost instantly, Mr. 3 retreated without hesitation. As the leader of this operation, his retreat also made Miss Golden Week and others who were sluggish on the side also wake up from their dreams. Without any hesitation, they retreated quickly and scattered in all directions, fearing that they would be attacked by Broggy's slash again if they gathered together. Chapter 76. Want to leave? Seeing this, Ron stepped forward to continue the pursuit. After all, to be honest, these guys from Baroque Works are almost all demon fruit power. Although it is not certain that after killing the opponent, he will be reborn directly on the fruit next to him, there is still a certain probability. Ron, okay. However, before Ron could continue his pursuit, Luffy on the side spoke first. Let's take a look at Dory's injury first. Injury? With a raised brow, Ron's eyes showed a hint of surprise. Was Dory injured? Or was it caused by those guys at Baroque Works? This was a bit unbelievable no matter how you looked at it, and even made him feel unbelievable. After all, he knew very well the level of MR3 and others. Almost all of them have school-level combat capabilities, and even with the addition of Devil Fruit, it is impossible to exert much more strength than the Commodore. But now? How could it possibly cause harm to Dori? Even if he had been injured, the gap between the giant's physique and absolute strength couldn't be easily erased. Thinking of this, Ron stopped chasing and came to Luffy and others' side. Immediately afterwards, a group of people moved forward rapidly and soon arrived at Dori's location. Looking around, Dori was indeed injured at this moment. In the area around his waist, a huge gap actually appeared at this moment. It was dripping with blood at the moment and looked extremely bad. How can it be? Seeing this scene, Ron's eyes were full of suspicion. How could the MR3 and others we saw earlier cause such huge harm to Dori? This is simply unbelievable, even unbelievable. 200 is a bald man. At this time, Zoro on the side stepped forward and said with an ugly expression, that guy fought hard enough to turn his arm into a blade. And his blade cutting ability was extremely terrifying. We didn't notice it at the time. We didn't notice it until Dori was attacked by surprise. The guy was knocked out by Dori, but the rest of the people came over and killed him. We didn't care about treating Dori's injuries and had to go and stop the people from Baroque works. I see. Hearing this, Ron suddenly understood. If that were the case, then all this would make sense. The bald man who can turn his hands into blades, isn't this MR1? This guy is the leader of the Baroque working group, and is even Crocodile's confidant. In a sense, M1 is no exception even at the level of deputy captain, and cannot be compared with other officers. In addition, what he ate was the paramecia quick-slash-fruit. Under such circumstances, his sneak attack would really be enough to pose a threat to Dori, and even cause such serious injuries. Dori! Dori! At this moment, Bragi hurriedly walked forward. After seeing the figure lying there with a pale face and a huge gash on his waist, everyone was in panic. He also didn't expect that someone would take advantage of his battle with Dori. If something really happened to Dori, Bragi wouldn't know how to deal with such a thing. For a moment, Bragi stood there blankly, not knowing what to do. Bragi! Seeing this situation, Ron's eyes flashed with helplessness. After jumping to the area in front of them, he immediately said, "You have lived in Little Garden for so long. Do you know where there are healing herbs? Dori's wound is very serious and requires medicine to truly treat it. We are bandaging it now to slow the spread of its injuries." Drug. Herbs. I know, I know. Hearing this, Bragi woke up from a dream. Without any hesitation, he turned around and said, "You guys wait here. I'm going to collect the medicine now." After saying that, he hurriedly ran towards the distant area. This scene also made the weak Dori couldn't help but speak, his eyes full of emotion and happiness. Obviously, although he was attacked this time and was even injured, if the conflict between the two could be handled well, it would be worthwhile in Dori's opinion. Day 1. A smile appeared on Donghee's face. But it was obvious that he could no longer hold on at this moment, and the injuries added to the injury caused him to pass out. Seeing this situation, Ron and others' expressions also changed. If Dori died, the situation would be extremely bad. Not caring about anything else, Ron acted quickly. He quickly cut off Dori's clothes, turned them into bandages, and then called Luffy and others to help Dori bandage them. About half an hour later, Bragi came back with the medicine. These are almost all herbs, and they are all healing herbs. Unfortunately, Ron and others are not doctors and have no idea what is best. However, in order to ensure Dori's safety, Ron applied all the herbs directly to Dori. After doing all this, Ron, the others, and Bragi sat in a nearby area and waited patiently. After all, they have done what they should do now. The specific situation and the effect will depend on whether Dori can wake up. At the other end, Mr. 3 and others have now left the confines of Little Garden. Taking their boats, they hurried towards the sea. Seeing the ship getting further and further away, the giant inside did not pursue it, which made Mr. 3 and others heave a sigh of relief. Scared me. How could that giant be so powerful? Mr. 1 was knocked away with one blow. I didn't expect that the other giant was so terrifying. Sitting slumped on the ground, Miss Golden Joe said with a frightened face. As soon as these words came out, they immediately aroused the recognition of everyone on the side. Terrible. At that moment, they all felt like they were almost dead. If nothing else, Broggy's slash was really terrifying. The members they took there were 2 businessmen. Although some were defeated, at least 200 people escaped. But what's the result? With just one slash, more than 200 people were already dead, and even the island was split open, forming a huge canyon. Well, the guy didn't chase him out, so we are safe. At this time, Mr. 3 spoke quietly. After looking at Miss Golden Week and others, he slowly said, but the current situation cannot be taken lightly. After all, M1 injured that giant before, and it was even fatal. Once it dies, another giant will probably come out to seek revenge on us. The most important thing for us now is to go back as soon as possible. After finding M1, we can return directly to Alabasta. Only within our territory can we have some sense of security, or we can find the president and hope that his power can compete with that giant. As soon as these words came out, Miss Golden Week and others also nodded. I have to say, MF3's words are true. Even according to his analysis, he and others will be in danger after returning this time. The only hope is to find the president, but if you want to find the president, you must contact Mr. 1. Thinking of this, Miss Golden Week and others did not hesitate, and spoke one after another. I noticed before that the direction in which the M1 was shot was in the southeast area. We are heading directly in that direction now, to find it as soon as possible and return to Alabasta. I will no longer be involved in the little garden matter, and I will not come here even if I have a mission. Those 2 giants are too terrifying. If you encounter them again, you will probably die. As soon as these words came out, they immediately aroused everyone's approval. Including Mr. 3 is no exception. At that moment, they were all completely frightened by Broggy and the Straw Hat Pirates. These guys must not let them go. At this moment, Miss Merry Christmas quietly spoke. Thinking of the Straw Hat Pirates who had stopped her and others before, and Ron who came and started killing them later, there was a burst of anger and murderous intent in her eyes. But her words also made Mr. 3 and others furious. If it weren't for the Straw Hat Pirates' obstruction, they might have killed the seriously injured Dory and completed part of their mission. It was even possible to evacuate before Broggy arrived, without causing such huge damage. More than 300 elites. Even the wealthy Barocco Limited would be unable to replenish such elites in a short period of time. Thinking of this, Mr. 3 and others also said, the Straw Hat Pirates deserve to die. Then Zoro, I will definitely kill him. And that Sanji, the perverted cook, I must kill him. That Straw Hat boy is not a good guy. He actually stopped me. I must make him pay the price. Although he yelled insults, even towards Usopp, Nami was full of hatred and wanted to kill him with 1,000 knives. But at this moment, Mr. 3 and others also made a tacit understanding and did not choose to mention Ron. From the previous situation alone, everyone could see how powerful Ron was and that he and others could not be provoked at all. If you say something harsh at this time and are believed by others to be true, then won't you have to die when you face Ron in the future? In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. Early on the 4th day, Dory finally woke up from the coma. When he opened his eyes, he immediately sat up from the ground, and a violent aura came out of his body. Obviously, he had thought about what happened the night before. Woke up. Dory wakes up. Great, and woke up. However, at this moment, Ron and others also breathed a sigh of relief. Especially Luffy and Usopp celebrated right there. Also smiling was Ron. It's not because Dory regained consciousness, but because when he regained consciousness, his mission was completed. This also means that the agreement reached by both parties is completed, and he will immediately be able to obtain the two-color haki practice method that he has longed for. Broggy. By this time, Dory had calmed down. Knowing that the previous matter was over, his eyes did not pause too much on the Straw Hat Pirates, but looked straight at them. He looked at Broggy who was sitting there not far away and said, "I plan to settle here, what about you?" At this moment, Dory was extremely free and easy. It seemed that because of what happened before, he suddenly opened his eyes a lot. "Of course I want it too." Hearing this, the corners of Broggy's mouth rose. He was extremely happy at Dory's words. After all, he had some doubts when Ron said it before, but now that Dory has said it, it also means that it is impossible to lie. For a moment, Broggy breathed a sigh of relief. As long as they don't continue to fight, the misunderstandings and conflicts between them will completely disappear. Thinking of this, Broggy suddenly laughed and said, "After your injury is healed, we will build a shelter together and completely live in Xiaohuayu." Good. Hearing this, Dory also smiled. He knew that Ron's matter was settled. Broggy really understands himself and is willing to stay here instead of going back to die. Thinking of this, Dory's smile became even brighter. Ron. Immediately afterwards, Zaylee's 2.8 eyes looked at Ron on the ground. After pondering for a while, he took out a booklet from his arms and threw it to Ron and said, "This is the two-color haki training method you need. I will give it to you now. By the way, there is also the special haki we got in the past, the training method of emission haki. After your armament haki reaches an advanced level, you can try to learn the training of Narlow haki. Emission haki." His pupils shrank, and Ron's breathing became rapid. After all, this is emission haki. In a sense, flow connection is a weaker version of Conqueror's entanglement. And once emission haki is mastered, demon fruit power can completely ignore the existence of sea stone handcuffs and the like, and continuously reduce the weaknesses of an esper in a true sense. "Thank you very much." Without hesitation, Ron took the manual with haki written on it and bowed deeply to Dory. "Thank you, Dory." "Dory, thank you." At the same time, Luffy and others also expressed their gratitude. Ron has already talked about the importance of haki before, and they also know very well that this is a cultivation method that is difficult to obtain in the Grand Line, and it is something that many people will not teach. Now Dory is given to Ron, which means it is handed over to the Straw Hat Pirates. They can also use the existence of the manual to practice the so-called haki and become stronger, which is an extremely huge favor. Especially Luffy and Zoro. They can't wait to see armament haki at this moment. If they can complete the training, then they really don't need to be afraid of Logia's opponents. 0. Chapter 77. Successfully obtained the two-color haki training method. Ron and his friends didn't bother Dory and Broggy. After a group of people had a meal with Broggy and Dory, they returned directly to the Mary. Immediately afterwards, they left Little Garden on the Mary and began to drive in the direction of Alabasta where the Eternal Pointer pointed. "Ron, it's so difficult to practice this kind of chi." On the deck, Ron, Luffy, and others gathered together. Looking at the two-color haki training method recorded in the manual, everyone frowned. Especially Luffy. He tried several times but had no clue. It is indeed difficult. Hearing this, Ron also nodded. They have all read the two-color haki's training method, and Ron has memorized it. But it is undeniable that the cultivation of this thing is extremely difficult. To practice seeing, hearing, and color requires absolutely keen perception. In addition to acquired learning, this thing also requires talent. As for armament haki, this is something that everyone can practice, but it also depends on your physical fitness and even your own strength. According to what is recorded in the manual, observation haki can comprehend and even master even those with a school-level strength. But armament haki is also different. If you want to master armament haki, you must at least reach the general level. Even if it is demon fruit power, it is extremely difficult to master it at the school level. The most important thing is that armament haki is a means of operating one's own special energy, which also makes it very difficult to cultivate it without anyone's guidance, and even just remember it first. After coming back to his senses, Ron looked at Luffy and others and said, "First remember the two-color haki's training method, and we will practice it in the future when our own situation is sufficient. Otherwise, if one's own strength is insufficient, there will be no possibility of cultivating them. The most important thing is that this two-color chamber energy is the standard means to become a top powerhouse." As soon as these words came out, they immediately aroused the recognition of Luffy and others. Although it cannot be practiced, it is necessary to remember it first. As Ron said, two-color haki is the standard equipment for the future strong players. If they don't know how to do it, they will probably be eliminated by then. This is not what they want to see. Immediately, the group of people did not hesitate and began to memorize silently. "Usopp, come and help me practice." Seeing everyone memorizing the training contents of double-color haki, Ron also put the manual away. Immediately afterwards, his eyes also looked at Usopp. His situation is different from Luffy and others. They need to reach at least the general level before they can practice the two-color haki, but Ron can also do it in advance. As a time traveler, his soul perception is stronger, and because of the 1,000-year dragon, he has an undead dragon body and his physical strength is also higher than the same level. Under such circumstances, Ron planned to start practicing. Regardless of whether he could succeed or not, he still had to do it. "Ron, what do you practice? Ron, do you want to practice haki?" Hearing this, Usopp and others looked at Ron in astonishment and asked. After all, they have already tried it, and this thing is not something they can practice in a short time. But now Ron actually wants to practice this. "Yes." Nodding, Ron smiled calmly and said, "Armed colors may be a lot more difficult to play, and they require actual combat experience to perfect. But this experience and color are also different. I should have the possibility and certainty of succeeding in cultivation. And I also know a way to practice seeing and hearing color." Yet, hearing this, Luffy and others immediately became interested. After looking at each other, a group of people also stood up from the ground and asked, "What can I do? What if you practice seeing and hearing color?" Obviously, they are all ready to make a move at this moment. Especially Luffy and Zoro. After all, apart from Ron, both of them are also at the school level. If Ron can practice, doesn't that mean it's possible for them too? No rush. With a calm smile, Ron looked at G/ and said seriously, "I'm not sure if it's possible. Luffy can practice with me, but Zoro, you don't have to. You have just become a swordsman, and now is the time for you to see rapid progress. If you are distracted from practicing the color of knowledge at this time, it will not be good news for you. What you need to do now is to improve your swordsmanship as soon as possible, at least to reach the level of an intermediate swordsman first." Hearing this, Zoro nodded. He also knew this. Although haki is indeed tempting, he also understands that his goal is swordsmanship and becoming the world's greatest swordsman. "I see." After agreeing, Zoro turned around and walked aside, and started practicing around the knife. "Then I'll go practice too." Seeing this, Sanji also stood up and said with a solemn expression, "Although it is a bit difficult, I will definitely break the bottleneck and reach school-level strength as soon as possible." After saying that, he didn't stay any longer and went straight to the side area to start exercising his body and kicking skills. "Ron, how do we practice next?" As a few people left, Luffy couldn't wait to ask. "Simple." Hearing this, Ron smiled indifferently, looked at Usopp and said, the next step in cultivation will require Usopp's help. The practice of seeing, hearing, and color is to train one's own perception. If this is the case, then Usopp's sniping is a very good way to temper it for us. And with the help of our training, Usopp can also improve his sniper skills. It can be said that he can achieve multiple goals with one stone. Upon hearing this, Luffy and Usopp's eyes lit up. After all, this kind of exercise is indeed interesting. Then, Luffy and Usopp said, "Then let's start now. Ron, what do we do next?" "Simple." With a laugh, Ron took out the black straps to cover his eyes, then turned to look in the direction of Usopp and said, "Usopp, Luffy and I are in the bow area, you go to the stern area to snipe us. Don't have any scruples, just launch an attack directly on our vital points. Only in this way can we become stronger." Hearing this, Usopp nodded. He glanced at Ron and Luffy, then turned around and walked towards the area behind. As he retreated, Luffy followed suit and covered his eyes. "Here we go!" Accompanied by a low drink from Usopp. The next second, countless piercing sounds resounded. Immediately afterwards, Ron and Luffy were exposed to Usopp's sniper range. Bang bang bang! There were constant noises, and both Luffy and Ron were hit by bullets fired by Usopp. Although it is not a very powerful bullet, it still hurts when it hits the body without any defense. For a moment, Ron was fully focused, constantly trying to sense and avoid. On the contrary, it was Luffy on the side. Because bullets didn't have much power against him as a rubber, this also caused him to stand there at a loss. "No. I don't feel anything at all." After a while, Luffy took off his blindfold, walked to the side helplessly and said, "Usopp, just train on Ron. I didn't even feel it, and I couldn't avoid it." Speaking of this, Luffy looked helpless. In response, Ron shrugged. Luffy in the original book had Rayleigh's personal guidance. With a stick attack mixed with armament haki, Luffy's potential was developed when he was in pain. But the current Usopp is obviously unable to do this. Without pain and pressure, Luffy cannot enter the state at all. Of course, the fake teacher is Rayleigh, and the real teacher is actually Katakuri. After all, he was the man who made Luffy understand the future in one battle. Although it was not very stable, his teaching power was undoubtedly powerful. Good. After agreeing, Usopp was not attacking Luffy, but picked up his own bullets and attacked Ron continuously. Ron did not hesitate at this moment and continued to start his own practice. Under such circumstances, time flies by. In the blink of an eye, a group of people had been traveling on the sea for about half a month. Nami. On this day, Luffy's exclamation broke the state of cultivation on the ship. Ron took off his blindfold and quickly came to the cabin. It can be seen that Nami actually has a cold and a fever at this moment, and he is lying there extremely weak. At this time, there was heavy snowfall outside, the entire sky and sea began to turn white, and the temperature dropped rapidly. "Still have a cold? It seems like this place is not far from the Drum Kingdom." Seeing this, Ron's eyes narrowed slightly. If nothing else, they had already approached the scope of the Drum Kingdom. Nami, as a being with special perception, directly causes her body to be able to sense the temperature and weather. Because of this, she sensed the cold in advance and fell ill unexpectedly. But because of this, Ron was also a little confused. After all, Nami had eaten devil fruit. Even though he is Logia, his physical fitness has also been greatly improved. Logically speaking, it is impossible for Nami to fall ill just because of a small temperature change. Could it be that the bloodline is awakening? Suddenly, an idea came to Ron's mind. He remembered that it seemed to be mentioned in the original book that after the Kingdom of the Drum, Nami began to master more powerful sailing talents, and even the clothes she wore were gradually reduced, allowing more skin to be exposed to sense changes in the weather. If this is the case, it is likely to come from the awakening of the bloodline in Nami's body. But Ron doesn't know what her bloodline is, and Nami's identity in her previous life has not been truly announced. But there are two inferences that Ron strongly agrees with. The first inference is that Nami is the reincarnation of Uranus, which is why Shirahoshi, a Poseidon, expressed his affection for her at the first sight. The second inference is that Nami is a hybrid of mermaid and human. According to the setting of the original work, mermaids and humans can give birth to ordinary human children, and such children may also awaken the mermaid bloodline when they grow up. Otherwise, if so, why did the dragon pirates recognize Nami when they invaded Orange Island, and why did they even let 457 pass the people of Kokosia village because of an agreement with Nami? But no matter which one it is, there is no doubt that this moment is crucial for Nami. As long as Nami is cured at this moment, the blood in her body will be awakened. By then, her navigation talent will be enhanced, and her cultivation talent may even increase. Thinking of this, Ron immediately said, "Let Nami drink some hot water first, and then put some hot towels on her." The current situation is not optimistic because Nami is ill. We must find an island and land as soon as possible to find a doctor to treat her. Good. Hearing this, Luffy and others also nodded. Immediately afterwards, a group of people started to get busy. "I'm going to make some ginger soup for Miss Nami." Sanji also turned around and left immediately. Not a doctor though. But as a chef, he still knows some methods that can alleviate the disease. Half an hour later, Nami's condition gradually improved. But her body temperature was still very high at the moment, and she was still in a coma. Rumble. Rumble. Under such circumstances, a roar suddenly sounded. Immediately afterwards, the Mary shook violently. With the rolling waves, the Mary was directly lifted off. "What's the situation? Is there an attack?" Immediately, the expressions of Luffy and others changed. "Sanji, Usopp, you stay and take care of Nami." Without saying a word, Ron, Luffy, and Zoro walked out of the cabin directly. And Sanji and Usopp didn't refuse. After all, protecting Nami is the most important thing if she might be attacked. Soon, Ron and the three came to the deck. Looking around, you can see a huge pirate ship appearing in the area not far away. And at this moment, countless hooks flew out from the pirate ship and landed directly on the Mary, limiting the possibility of the Mary leaving or escaping. Pirate! Seeing this scene, Luffy and Zoro looked ugly. It's not good for Nami that these guys are attacking at this time. Because of this, the anger in their hearts is also extremely huge. It's them. On the contrary, Ron was thoughtful at the moment. White Iron King. The pirate ship in front of you is the Munch Munch fruit user, Wapol. It was also mentioned in the original work. But he didn't expect that Nami would meet these guys not long after she fell ill. For a moment, Ron's eyes flashed with murderous intent, and he murmured, "Paramecia shishi fruit. This is also a top-notch Paramecia devil fruit. If I can get it, then maybe." Chapter 78. For Wapol's capabilities. Ron was quite concerned about it, and could even be said to be very approving of it. Paramecia Munch Munch fruit. It can be transformed into any swallowed substance. This substance includes not only physical objects, but also all elements. It can be said that this Munch Munch fruit is an existence similar to dark fruit in Paramecia. If it can be developed properly, the potential of Munch Munch fruit is definitely not inferior to any top-notch devil fruit. Even Blackbeard. Before getting dark fruit, he also had the intention of using Munch Munch fruit as his own ability. It can be seen from this that the value of this Munch Munch fruit is so huge. The only uncertainty is how much hope there is of getting his Munch Munch fruit if Wapol is killed. No matter what the chance is. But now that it's in front of you, you can't miss it. And if these guys show up at this time, they are seeking their own death. At this thought, Ron's eyes burst with murderous intent and he said, "Luffy, Zoro, follow me. There are a lot of these guys, and letting them come to the Mary will definitely cause damage. We will kill them directly and finish them off on their pirate ship." After saying that, Ron jumped up, used moonwalk and flew towards the Iron King. "Let's go! Let's go too!" Seeing this, Luffy and Zoro looked at each other. Without hesitation, both of them jumped up and used moonwalk to follow Ron. Soon, Ron and the other three arrived at the White Iron King's level. As soon as he floated to the ground, densely packed pirates were already surrounding him. "Kill! Kill them! Kill them!" Almost instantly, the pirates noticed it and without any hesitation, they quickly attacked Ron and the others. "Coming!" Seeing the person coming, Ron's eyes flashed with murderous intent. Without any hesitation, he directly pulled out Schwaze from his waist and said, "Luffy, Ron, don't stay here. A group of pirates who have done many evil things, there is no need to show mercy." With that said, Ron jumped out directly, the electric arc jumped, and his figure shuttled rapidly, but in a short period of time, he annihilated all the people in front of him. Seeing this, Luffy and Zoro did not hesitate. They were also furious. After all, when these guys appeared, it affected the Mary. Even Nami, who was in the midst of it, was affected. If it's on weekdays, that's it. But now Nami is ill and is extremely fragile. If something happens to her, it would be unimaginable. And the people who caused all this were the guys in front of them, and even Luffy didn't let them go. Rubber rubber machine gun. Rubber rubber Nanta. Itoryu Shishigage. 3 swordsman style 1000 troubled winds. In an instant, Luffy and Zoro also accelerated their killing speed. In just an instant, the pirates present began to die at a speed visible to the naked eye. "Ah! Ah!" The screams resounded endlessly, and no one could survive the attacks of Ron and the others, not even the slightest resistance. As time goes by, the number of pirates in the entire pirate ship is rapidly decreasing. "Damn it, stop it!" At this moment, an angry voice sounded. Wapole's figure appeared, looking directly at Ron and the other three. After seeing the corpses on the ground, his eyes were filled with endless anger and murderous intent. Those are all his subordinates, those are all his subordinates. Although he didn't care much about the life and death of this group of people, after being massacred on such a large scale, wouldn't he have fewer subordinates? In an instant, Wapole jumped up to the area inside the stadium, looked at Ron and the other three and said, "3 damn brats, are you looking for death? How dare you make trouble on my ship? You don't want to live anymore." Hearing this, Luffy immediately stepped forward, looked at Wapole and said, "Are you the captain? You were the one who attacked our ship. I'm going to blow you away." For Wapole, Luffy's only thought at the moment was to knock it away. After all, as the captain, there is no doubt that the previous behavior of the White Iron King was under his control. "Wait a minute." Seeing this, Ron immediately stopped him, "Luffy, leave this guy to me. You and Zoro take care of the rest of the pirates." Joke. Ron wasn't going to let Luffy knock him away. You know, the value of the Munch Munch fruit on Wapole is extremely huge. If it was really blown away like this, there would be no possibility of encountering it again, and there would be no possibility of capturing the Munch Munch fruit. Therefore, Ron has to take action himself and kill it in a real sense, hoping to take this opportunity to obtain the power of Munch Munch fruit. This. Opening his mouth, Luffy looked at Ron subconsciously and said in surprise, "Ron, I'm going to kill him myself." Before Luffy could finish speaking, Ron said firmly, "This guy almost hurt Nami, and he can't be solved by just being beaten. Even if I don't take action, it would be Zoro, not you, Luffy." "I see." Hearing this, Luffy immediately lowered his head. He knew what Ron meant. Among the three, only Luffy doesn't kill people casually. He mostly defeats people. The ones who kill decisively in the real sense are Ron and Zoro. Therefore, when Ron wants to kill Wapole, it is indeed not suitable for Luffy to take action. Thinking of this, Luffy did not hesitate, looked to the side and said, "Zoro, let's compete to see who can defeat more people." After saying that, he accelerated suddenly and attacked the pirates on the side. Rubber rubber machine gun. Rubber rubber bazooka. Luffy, this is a sneak attack. Seeing this, Zoro was stunned for a moment, then smiled. Without hesitation, he quickly attacked the other pirates. Under the absolute overwhelming strength, those pirates had no resistance at all, and they fell to the ground and died miserably under the attacks of Luffy and Zoro. A hole. I told you to stop. You actually dare to take action. You are provoking me. Seeing this, Wapol next to him was furious. Luffy and Zoro's behavior was undoubtedly a slap in his face, which made him feel aggrieved and unhappy from the bottom of his heart. Burning with anger, Wapol directly picked up a knife and swallowed it, and then stepped forward to stop Luffy and Zoro without hesitation. Your opponent is me. Seeing this situation, Ron's eyes flashed with murderous intent. He knew what Waldo was thinking, but because of this, his eyes at the moment were filled with strong murderous intent. With a thought, Ron's figure appeared in the area in front of Wapol. He waved the snow in his hand and drew his sword and struck Wapol in an instant. Zhang! Flames flew everywhere, and Wapol was knocked away by Ron's knife. He hit the ground hard and traveled more than 10 meters before stopping. Although he is not as strong as Ron, but with the transformation power of Munch Munch Fruit, he makes himself like a blade, which also makes Ron's attack unable to kill him. Munch Munch Fruit! It's really extraordinary. Seeing this, Ron's eyes narrowed slightly. Taking a step forward, the arc around him began to beat. Speed Force open! Without any hesitation, Ron disappeared from the spot. The next second, his figure appeared in the area next to Wapol. The arc-wrapped snow walk swung and continuously attacked Wapol's body. Ah! Aboj! For a time, screams resounded continuously. Although the body turned into a blade-like substance, Ron's attack was not fatal, but the attack containing power and lightning was also extremely powerful. This also resulted in Wapol having no resistance at all. Under Ron's continuous attacks, his entire body was floating in mid-air. It wasn't that he had mastered the power of flight, but that Ron's attack had already fallen when he was about to fall. This also resulted in his entire being knocked into the air. As time went by, Ron's slashing speed with the knife became faster and stronger, and his strength became stronger and stronger. Even Wapol, who had transformed into a sword body, could no longer hold on. Not enough. Not enough. Ron was extremely dissatisfied with this. After all, his attack power is still insufficient and he is completely unable to break Wapol's defense, which also makes things extremely troublesome at this moment. Super Speed Force. Taking a deep breath, the arc around Ron's body beat more and more violently. At this time of ultimate, he directly entered the Super Speed Force mode. Under such circumstances, Ron's speed has become blurry. As his figure quickly moves around, the snow in his hand also attacks Wapol in a steady stream. Crack! There was a shattering sound, and Wapol's skin defenses cracked. Immediately afterwards, blood splattered. As Ron's attacks became faster and faster, countless sword marks appeared on Wapol's body. Each sword penetrated deeply into his flesh and blood, and lightning continuously invaded his body, making him wail continuously, "Ah! Ah!" This scene directly frightened the pirates on the White Iron King. Luffy and Zoro are too powerful. They had no resistance at all, and even at this moment, their hearts were filled with fear and uneasiness. But under the current circumstances, they have no choice. The only hope is that Wapol can defeat Ron and then rescue them. But what's the result? Wapol's situation is similar to theirs, and he will even have no resistance at all. This scene simply deeply stimulated everyone. After all, Wapol is so pale and feeble, which makes people wonder whether they can survive. Thinking of this, everyone felt a little desperate in their hearts, and couldn't help but exclaimed, "Master Wapol! Lord Wapol, fight back! Lord Wapol, you are a munch fruit user, how could you be beaten so hard that you can't fight back?" Unfortunately, their shouting means nothing. Even though Wapol heard it at this moment, he didn't respond. The ability to refute and even the ability to speak is gone. The power covered by the munch fruit has been completely destroyed, which also caused the pain in his body to be extremely real. Under such circumstances, he wished he could die directly. After all, living was not only not a good thing, but also extremely painful. "Kill me!" Under severe pain, Wapol finally collapsed. He endured the pain in his heart with difficulty and looked at Ron in the side area. Obviously, he has completely given up and now just wants to die. He didn't even make the final resistance, and completely took back the power of munch fruit. Interesting. Seeing this, Ron smiled. He knew what Wapol was thinking. After all, the rest of the resistance has no meaning before absolute power. The most important thing is that Ron's attack seems not fatal, but in fact it is murderous. In addition to the previous attacks, Ron even deliberately controlled the intensity of subsequent attacks in order to let Wapol experience the feeling of being cut open. Seeing that Wapol had completely given up, promising money, Ron's inner anger had also calmed down a lot. With a thought in his mind, he took out a few fruits and threw them towards the area where Wapol was, and then swung the snow in his hand and chopped it out. "Fulfill you!" The next second, the arc was bright. Ron's knife cut off Wapol's head directly. At this point, the pirates around Wapol's death also completely collapsed. "Died. Lord Wapol is dead. Run away quickly!" For a time, countless whistles sounded. The surviving pirates could no longer hold their nerve and did not dare to face Luffy and Zoro. They turned around and started running away. Many of them even jumped into the sea. Even if he was drowned in the sea, it would be better than dying in the hands of Ron and others. "Where to go? None of you guys can leave." Seeing this, Luffy and Zoro let them escape. Almost instantly, they accelerated their attack on the pirates. In an instant, one pirate died, and the number of pirates on the ship also decreased rapidly. "No! Damn it, no!" At the same time, Ron's expression became extremely ugly at this moment. Where Wapol's body was located, there were more than a dozen fruits scattered. But Wapol has been dead for several minutes, but no fruit has been transformed into devil fruit. This also means that his hope of getting munch fruit is gone. For a moment, Ron's eyes were filled with helplessness. "No, look at the food in this ship first. Maybe the fruits in the cabin can be transformed into devil fruit." After shaking his head, Ron ignored the wailing pirates and turned around and walked towards the cabin area. Chapter 79. However, the reality is also cruel. Ron searched around the cabin and found no devil fruit. This also means that munch fruit does not regenerate on the nearby fruit. That's it. It seems like this thing still depends on luck. After shaking his head, Ron turned around and walked towards the outside world without insisting on anything. There are many things in this cabin, but they are not attractive to Ron. After dealing with these guys, they have to go to the Drum Kingdom as quickly as possible, find Chopper as soon as possible to help Nami treat, and at the same time, smuggle Chopper, the doctor in the original work, into the Straw Hat Pirates. As Ron came out, he could see that the deck was littered with corpses. Although Luffy did not do much after defeating the opponent, Zoro would not let these guys go. One knife at a time, directly harvesting the lives of all those pirates. Ron. When Ron came out, Luffy and Zoro also came forward. After arriving at his side, the two asked curiously, "Where have you been before? What did you just do?" "Nothing." With a calm smile, Ron glanced at the two of them, and then said, "I just went to see if the munch fruit was reborn on this ship." But obviously not, and we don't need to waste any more time. Now that these guys have been dealt with, it's almost time for us to leave. The most important thing is to go to the Drum Kingdom as soon as possible to find a doctor to treat Nami. Good. Hearing this, Luffy and Zoro nodded. They also all know that the current matter cannot be delayed. Nami's condition looks extremely bad, and she needs to be treated as soon as possible. As for devil fruit, to be honest, they didn't care. After all, Wapol had not shown the power of Munch Munch fruit before, and it didn't seem to have anything special. Soon, Ron and his team returned to the Mary. After cutting off the connecting rope, Ron looked at the huge white Iron King, raised the knife in his hand and slashed at the area in front, shouting loudly, 50 million volt thunder knife. The next second, a huge lightning sword energy condensed, and under his control, it landed directly on Beatty's Axion. 430 boom. Rumble. The roar resounded, and the lightning sword energy raged, directly destroying the ship. Countless arcs jumped, and the entire ship cracked at a speed visible to the naked eye. Countless seawater penetrated into the ship along the gaps, and the entire ship cracked at a speed visible to the naked eye, sinking towards the bottom of the sea at a fast speed. Hiss! Seeing this, both Luffy and Zoro couldn't help but gasp. Luffy was surprised by Ron's development of the lightning fruit. Zoro was surprised that Ron was able to slash the lightning sword energy that was not inferior to that of a swordsman. For a moment, both of them looked at Ron in shock and said, "Ron, your development of devil fruit is too powerful." "Yes, with such a huge lightning sword energy, even I cannot perform a comparable slashing attack now." "Ron, your understanding of kendo is too strong." Hearing this, Ron waved his hand and said calmly, "This matter is not too difficult for me. After all, the main thing is the development of devil fruit. In addition to swordsmanship and knowledge, my training during this period of time also focused on developing lightning fruits. Although my lightning fruit will focus on speed, I have also developed the other characteristics of lightning and will not waste them." Hearing this, Luffy was thoughtful. Then, he seemed to think of something and looked at Ron and said, "Ron, I also thought about the third gear before. You see Dory and Broggy are so powerful, so can I also develop a giant form? I am rubber, so it stands to reason that I can reach a level similar to that of a giant." "Certainly." Upon hearing this, Ron gave his support without hesitation. To be honest, he feels that once Luffy's third gear is truly perfected, it will be no less than the future fourth gear. It's just that the fourth gear is mainly based on Haki, probably because in the original work, Luffy developed it after learning Haki, and the true power of the third gear was not demonstrated at all. As Luffy said, his third gear is to transform himself into a form similar to a giant. Once it is really completed, the strength of the physical body alone will be no less than that of the giant Vice Admiral. If on this basis, a fourth gear covering itself is developed, even if it can't have so many forms, with the blessing of the giant's height and strength, and the blessing of Haki, it's completely a big deal, and it's not a problem for a child to lift a child in one fell swoop. Thinking of this, Ron immediately said, "Your idea is very good. If it can really be completed, that blow can contain the power of a giant. Even if he is not a real giant, he is not much inferior. But once you really want to evolve in this direction, then I suggest you take it to the ultimate level in the true sense, so that you can truly reach the point where you can transform into a giant. It's not just a part of the body that gets bigger or smaller. Is this so?" Nodding thoughtfully, Luffy had already imagined in his mind the scene of himself transforming into a huge giant like Dory and Broggy. For a moment, his eyes lit up and he said excitedly, "I will definitely finish it. It will definitely be cool to transform into a giant when the time comes." Looking at the interested Luffy, Ron also smiled at this moment. After all, under such circumstances, as long as Luffy is really determined to develop it, he can definitely become a giant. Once he really accomplishes this, even if he doesn't master Haki, he will be able to threaten enemies at Vice Admiral level. Although the fourth gear and awakening in the future are still powerful, it is undeniable that the potential of the third gear is also extremely huge. Alright. The ship matter has been taken care of. Thinking of this, Ron immediately changed his voice and said, "Let's start the ship first and head to the Drum Kingdom as quickly as possible." Good. Good. Hearing this, Zoro and Luffy did not hesitate, followed Ron to the cockpit, and immediately put the Mary into action again, aiming directly in the direction of the Drum Kingdom. Ron. Luffy. Zoro. At this moment, two shouts came. Looking through the sound, we can see Sanji and Usopp walking out of the room. At this moment, both of them also showed a smile. After arriving at their location, Sanji said, "Miss Nami has gone to bed. Although it has not improved yet, it is much better than the previous situation." That's good. Hearing this, Ron and others also breathed a sigh of relief. Nami's symptoms have eased, which is definitely the best news. Thinking of this, Ron immediately said, "In that case, don't disturb Nami's rest. We take turns monitoring the ship, trying to reach the location of the Drum Kingdom as soon as possible." Good. $7. Hearing this, Sanji and others also nodded. Immediately afterwards, Usopp seemed to have thought of something, and stepped forward and said, "By the way, Ron, I picked up a good thing." As he spoke, he took out a special fruit from his arms, and it turned out to be devil fruit. "Is this devil fruit?" With a raised brow, Ron's eyes showed a hint of astonishment. Unexpectedly, a devil fruit actually appeared in Usopp's hand. And looking at the devil, fruit in front of him, Ron felt vaguely familiar for some reason. "Yes." Nodding, Usopp grinned and said, "I was preparing to cut the fruits for Nami, but suddenly one of them turned into a devil fruit. Ron, please see if this is the devil fruit I need. Can it enhance my strength?" As soon as these words came out, Sanji, Zoro and Luffy all turned to look at the devil fruit in Usopp's hand. "I see." At this time, Ron's energy perked up, and he looked surprised as he said, "Paramecia munch fruit. I didn't expect that I would be reborn in your hands, Usopp, after searching for so long on that ship and finding nothing." At this moment, Ron had to be convinced. This is the protagonist group, and all kinds of outrageous things can happen naturally. Especially Usopp. This is definitely second only to Luffy in terms of luck in the Straw Hats. Now he has the munch fruit in his hand. If it weren't for the fact that he is a sniper, with this devil fruit, he would have the possibility of becoming the vice president, admiral, or even the four emperors. Thinking of this, Ron looked at worker Usopp. "Have you ever thought about giving up sniping? This devil fruit is Paramecia munch fruit. Although others may think it is a bit useless, I also know that it is the top Paramecia devil fruit. After eating it, you will have the possibility to be as good as everyone else in the future. But if you want to develop munch fruit, you need to focus on close combat instead of sniping." Goodoo. Hearing this, Luffy and others on the side swallowed their saliva. Top quality Paramecia devil fruit. Is this munch fruit so powerful? Why didn't Wapol see this happening before? But they also recognized Ron's words very much. Under such circumstances, they looked at the fruit with extremely hot eyes. No. However, at this moment, Usopp quickly suppressed his inner restlessness and said, "Although some expectations are true, I still like sniping, and I will not give up myself to become the king of sniping just for a devil fruit dream." Good. Hearing this, Ron nodded. He had already thought of this possibility before, and Usopp couldn't be a man who would be moved by just a devil fruit. Thinking of this, Ron said, "In that case, let's keep it. Put it in the ship. If others join us, you can eat it to increase their strength if they need it." As soon as these words came out, they immediately aroused Usopp's approval. Indeed. The only ones not eating devil fruit right now are him, Zoro, and Sanji. However, Zoro is a swordsman and cannot eat the devil fruit, and Sanji is a close combatant, but he has said before that his hope is paramecia, the invisibility fruit, and he should not care about the existence of this thing. Thinking of this, Usopp handed the devil fruit to Ron and said, "In that case, then. Just leave this devil fruit with you, Ron. You are the strongest and can protect it." "No problem." Nodding, Ron thought and took out the light lion fruit and said, "This is the devil fruit of Miss Valentine that we met before, the light lion fruit. After eating it, it can make oneself as light as a feather, and it can also change one's own history. Although on the surface it seems to be only targeting itself, once it awakens, it will be able to affect surrounding things, and by then it will be able to do something similar to lion fruit. In this way, once the object is touched by it, it can increase its gravity and even float directly." The former Golden Lion relied on lion fruit to become the leading pirate, and even almost defeated the team of the previous pirate King Roger. This light lion fruit is the lower lion fruit of Golden Lion. It may not be that powerful, but it should not be underestimated. If any of you want it, just ask directly. Goodoo. Hearing this, Luffy and others swallowed again. Not for anything else, because according to Ron's description, this light lion fruit may not be very powerful in the early stage, but it is also extremely powerful in the later stage. Especially the information he tells. The owner of the lion fruit, the superior fruit of the light lion fruit, actually almost defeated the Pirate King's team, which shows how terrifying it is. Ron. Subconsciously, Luffy asked, "What is awakening? Is the big pirate who almost defeated the Pirate King very powerful?" As soon as these words came out, Ron and others rolled their eyes. How could the being who almost defeated the Pirate King's team be weak? However, the Golden Lion of this period was indeed weak. After all, in the original work, it was defeated by Luffy, who only had school-level strength. But all this is also caused by the fact that the Golden Lion is old, even weak in strength, and cannot use haki, as well as the suppression of the Kakaku aura. Otherwise, the Golden Lion would never have been defeated by the Straw Hat Pirates or Luffy. Thinking of this, Ron said, "The Golden Lion of the past was very powerful. He was not only a lion fruit-capable person, but also the owner of Conqueror's haki. The most important thing is that he was also the owner of Conqueror's haki. The world's greatest swordsman before Hawkeye followed the two-sword style. It is said that there are two supremely sharp swords in the hands of the Golden Lion, which are unmatched by swordsmen of that era." Chapter 80. Goodoo. Hearing this, Zoro swallowed. At this moment, his breathing was a little rapid. Not only was the Golden Lion a threat to the original Roger pirates, the most important thing was that the world's greatest swordsman of that era was actually the Golden Lion. This is the world's greatest swordsman who ate the devil fruit. How can he actually do such a thing? For a moment, his heart was extremely shaken, and he subconsciously said, "Is this true? Ron, how can someone who ate devil fruit become the world's greatest swordsman?" "I don't know either." Shrugging, Ron said calmly, "I just got some information. I don't know exactly how the world's greatest swordsmen of that era were classified. But there is no doubt that even if he eats devil fruit, Golden Lion's swordsmanship is definitely the strongest of that era. Even swordsman masters like Roger, Rayleigh, and Whitebeard are not as good as him." As soon as these words came out, Zoro fell silent. Demon fruit power became the world's greatest swordsman. No matter what the situation is, there is no doubt that Kendo does not seem to have much to do with eating devil fruit or not, or even. In this case, it seems that she also has hope of competing for the world's greatest swordsman again. Suddenly, Zoro seemed to think of something. After his whole body was refreshed, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but rise. Seeing this, Ron had no idea who Zoro was referring to. "Tashigi. If you eat the powerful Zoan and the ancient devil fruit, you will indeed be able to change your own shortcomings and fully develop your swordsmanship talent, and you will indeed be strong by then. But soon, Ron came back to his senses and didn't pay too much attention to these things. Not for anything else, because this matter has no great role or value to him. After all, he is not a pure swordsman, and he has no intention of becoming the world's greatest swordsman. Ron. Suddenly, Usopp's voice came from the side, is that light lion fruit really so powerful? After eating it, can you really become so powerful in the later stage? Awakening, is it true that the Ministry of Education has planned such a big change in one fruit? As soon as these words came out, Luffy and others also looked at Ron. After all, they have seen the situation of light lion fruit before. That is to say, it floats or even adds some gravity to itself to attack the opponent. It seems that there is really nothing outstanding about it. Certainly. On the contrary, Ron waved his hands disapprovingly and said, otherwise, why do you think it is the lower fruit of lion fruit? As one of Paramecia's top devil fruits, even its lower-ranked fruits are not comparable to ordinary devil fruits. It's just that as a low-level fruit, it naturally cannot be compared with the early stage of high-level fruits, and it is impossible that it is not worth much in the early stage. But if you can develop its ability and cover it on the bullets you shoot, then it doesn't matter whether it is the destructive power of the gravity force or the speed of covering the buoyancy force, it cannot be underestimated. What, Usopp, you want to eat it? Hearing this, Luffy and others on the side also looked at Usopp. After all, Ron said before that the most suitable person for Usopp is undoubtedly Zoan, and it is best to be a Zoan with enhanced eyesight. But if it is this light lion fruit, it is indeed quite good. Although its awakening may be difficult, there is no doubt that its ability will greatly increase its existence as a sniper. Usopp, you have to take good care of it. Usopp, you can only eat one devil fruit, you have to think clearly. Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro all spoke. They did not approve or stop it. Whether to eat or not to eat, that is Usopp's own choice. As companions, what they need is not to influence each other's life and choices, but more importantly, to let them make their own choices. I made a decision. Under such circumstances, Usopp pondered for a while, then slowly raised his head and looked at Ron and said, I'll eat it. Although it is weaker in the early stage, it is extremely good for me to have the power of flying. Once I truly master flying, most people will be unable to do anything to me. After all, I am a sniper. And according to what Ron said, if I develop it for a period of time, I might be able to use it to enhance my bullets, and then my sniping skills will be stronger. Good. Upon hearing this, Ron knew that Usopp had made up his mind. Without stopping anything, he directly threw the light lion fruit in his hand to Usopp and said, in that case, then you can eat it. But this stuff doesn't taste good. Number 7. Without refusing, Usopp took the devil fruit. Without any hesitation, he just took a bite. In an instant, Usopp's face twisted. The devil fruit was so unpalatable that it really made him feel extremely sour. But he also knew that this thing must be swallowed, otherwise even if it was disabled, it would be impossible to gain power. Goodoo. Swallowing it hard, Usopp closed his eyes for a while and then opened his eyes and said in surprise, that's great. I really mastered buoyancy. The gravity has not been developed yet, so it should require my follow-up development. But the emergence of this buoyancy is enough for me to fly, and even the consumption is extremely small. In my situation, there is no problem even if I can fly for a day. With that said, Usopp activated his ability. In an instant, it can be seen that his figure slowly floated up. After flying out of the dock, he turned back and forth directly in the area above the Mary. Fly. The ability to fly again. Seeing this situation, Luffy said with some envy. After all, he is made of rubber and does not have such flying ability. Don't worry, rubber fruit is not weak. If you develop it well yourself, you will definitely be able to fly in the future. Seeing this, Ron stepped forward and patted Luffy on the shoulder to comfort him. Of course, this is no joke. Because in the future, Luffy's fourth gear will indeed be able to fly. Although the time cannot last so long, it is indeed flying. As for awakening, once it turns into Nika form, flying will not be any problem for Luffy. I will definitely develop the ability to fly. Nodding heavily, Luffy spoke with deep understanding at this moment. Although I have learned moonwalk, it is not a long-term solution, and moonwalk is still very expensive. If you can master flying, you can almost overcome the weakness of sea water, and there is almost no possibility of falling into the sea and losing strength. After a long time, Usopp got tired of playing and fell from the air. As soon as he landed, Usopp was extremely excited and said, "Ron, this devil fruit suits me so well. I can feel that after flying for a while, I am becoming more and more skilled in the development of devil fruit. Especially buoyancy, I can definitely further develop this thing to make myself faster. In addition, my strength has reached the level of a major." Having said this, Usopp raised his hand and waved it. Although he had just eaten the devil fruit, it was paramecia after all, and its growth rate should not be underestimated. Most importantly, the power of paramecia devil fruit taps into Usopp's own potential. Usopp in the original book is weak. That's because of neglect of exercise. 2 years later, after Usopp has improved his physical fitness, to be honest, he is not weak at all. Eating devil fruit now directly saves Usopp at least 2 years of time. Even if he has no combat experience, there is no doubt that Usopp is much stronger now. Major level. Great, congratulations Usopp. Hearing this, Luffy and Zoro on the side couldn't help but congratulate him. Even Ron didn't expect it. After looking at Usopp, he said immediately, "It should be that your own talent has been unlocked. The increase in devil fruit cannot be so exaggerated, let alone paramecia, so the most likely thing is that the power of this devil fruit unlocks your own talents. Under such circumstances, Usopp, you can reach the school level. Even because of the talent unlocked, you will become stronger much faster in the future, even to the point where you are not inferior to Luffy and Zoro." Yet, upon hearing this, Usopp's eyes lit up. "My own strength is not only given by the devil fruit, but also because of my own talent." This was a great affirmation for him, and even gave him great confidence in his future. For a moment, Usopp looked at Luffy, and then locked on Zoro, laughing loudly and saying, "Zoro, I will definitely surpass you. Zero, please give me flowers." "Good." Zoro was stunned at first. He didn't expect Usopp to say such words. But soon, a smile appeared on his face, and he looked at Usopp and said, "You can't relax, otherwise the gap between us will only get wider and wider." "Of course not." Grinning, Usopp was also confident at this moment. He looked at Zoro and said, "Come on, Zoro, let's practice. I already desperately want to become stronger. When I defeat you, then Luffy, and then Ron, I will be the captain of the Straw Hat Pirates." "Usopp, you've gone too far." Hearing this, Zoro had no reaction, but Luffy beside him couldn't help it. There was actually someone peering at his captain's position with eager eyes. How could he accept this? And no matter Zoro, Usopp's talent and strength are not inferior to his own, the sense of urgency in his heart has become more and more huge. Not to mention the existence of Ron, the strongest person. Although Ron was not interested in the captain's position, Luffy was still eager to become stronger. Thinking of this, Luffy also yelled, "I'll go exercise too. I won't lose to you." While talking, the three of them walked directly to the side, picked up the equipment on the ground and started exercising. They are really three living treasures. Seeing this, Ron smiled and shook his head, then turned around to see how Nami was doing. "Ron." At this moment, Sanji from the side suddenly came forward. After coming to Ron's side, Sanji's expression was a little complicated, but he soon became decisive and said, "Then munch fruit, is it really strong? Is it really possible? Is it enough for someone to have the same potential as Admiral?" There was a pause in his steps, and Ron looked at Sanji in surprise. He never expected that Sanji would actually want to eat devil fruit. And judging from this posture, he seems to have set his sights on munch fruit. You know, Sanji in the original book is not against the devil fruit, but he is only interested in the invisibility fruit. Now he actually wants munch fruit, which is simply unbelievable and even made Ron a little stunned. Good. However, he was shocked, but Ron didn't hide the fruit at this moment. He said bluntly, "The original fragrance fruit can transform everything swallowed into its own power. This kind of power is special, and if it is developed to the point of awakening, it can completely swallow all things. Everything swallowed by you will turn into your own assistance. It's like my lightning. If I send lightning into your stomach to swallow it, then it is very likely that you will directly control the power of lightning. If the flame is swallowed by you, then you can also master the power of the flame, and swallow other things and turn it into your own strength. It's just that I am sure whether it is swallowing a kind of power and turning it into energy, or whether it is able to transform multiple abilities into its own abilities, but there is no doubt that when facing some opponents, you can indeed respond in the same way." The state of his body. If the opponent is demon fruit power, then you will probably be able to master his ability after swallowing it, so that you will not be afraid of the opponent's ability attacking you. Goodoo. Hearing this, Sanji couldn't help it. If it is true as Ron said, then the potential of munch fruit is indeed terrifying. Although there are uncertain factors, all of this alone is enough to make people excited. Plus the stimulation from Usopp just now. You know, Ron, Luffy and Zoro on the ship are all at the school level now, and now Usopp has also reached the school level. Doesn't this mean that he is the only one who is still a lieutenant? As for Nami, because of Logia, even the school level can't do anything to him. Sanji suddenly became the weakest being among the Straw Hat Pirates. Thinking of this, Sanji said directly, "I want to eat munch fruit, please, Ron." Good. Hearing this, Ron did not refuse. As soon as he thought about it, he took out the munch fruit, threw it to Sanji, and said, "To be honest, I'm looking forward to it too." After all, Usopp activated his talent after eating devil fruit before. What about you? If you eat it, will it activate the bloodline factors in your body? Once it is really activated, your strength will surpass Luffy and others in one leap, and may even be as strong as me, Bulletin Fan. Chapter 81. Yet. Hearing this, Sanji's eyes also lit up. Beyond Luffy, Zoro et.al. This is really exciting. Without hesitation, Sanji picked up the munch fruit and put it into his mouth without hesitation. Vomit. It tastes so bad. How can this thing be so unpalatable? This is the greatest ill will towards me as a chef. In an instant, Sanji's complaints resounded. As a chef, he has an extremely keen sense of taste. This also made him more sensitive to the taste of devil fruit, and he looked like he was hopeless at the moment. But even so, Sanji's changes are extremely huge. It can be clearly seen that the aura on his body is growing rapidly. Especially one of his eyebrows turned upside down at this moment. Obviously, this is the trend of the blood factor awakening in Sanji's body. But it was only half of it. The other half of the eyebrows had no change at all. It was obvious that the awakening was not thorough enough. But even so, Sanji's aura is getting stronger and stronger at this moment, directly entering the school level, and even increasing rapidly. Sanji's breath. What happened? How could Sanji become so strong all of a sudden? As the aura continued to increase, Luffy and the three people not far away also noticed it. For a moment, the three of them no longer cared about practicing, and quickly stepped forward to check. After all, Sanji's current aura is too strong. He is not at the level of a major at all. He has already reached the stage of a lieutenant colonel or even a colonel. And this is not over yet, his aura is still growing rapidly. 013 Ron, what's going on? For a moment, Luffy asked dryly. For no other reason than because he could clearly feel that Sanji's experience had surpassed his own. Even with second gear turned on, he didn't seem to be 100% sure that he could defeat the current Sanji. Yet, what's going on with this perverted cook? Zoro also had a look of astonishment on his face. After all, he and Sanji didn't deal with each other before. It's not that they have a bad relationship, it's that they don't like each other. This time Sanji improved so much all of a sudden, which really made him a little shocked and unbelievable. Ron, did Sanji eat it too? On the contrary, Usopp asked thoughtfully at this moment. Yes. Nodding, Ron looked at Sanji with a solemn expression and said, Sanji did eat munch fruit. It's just that this is not just the power of munch fruit, but more importantly, Sanji's own special bloodline has been activated. Although it is only half activated, the increase for him is also extremely huge. I even suspect that after Sanji completely masters this power, he will be able to directly enter the general level. Even the weakest Commodore is incomparable to us. Goodoo. Hearing this, Usopp swallowed, his eyes full of envy. Special bloodline. This guy Sanji actually has a special bloodline. It's so cool. You can become so much stronger all at once. This bloodline is so powerful. As soon as these words came out, they immediately aroused the recognition of Luffy and Zoro. Immediately afterwards, the two of them seemed to be stimulated, and without struggling or waiting, they turned around and walked aside to start practicing. After all, in their opinion, Sanji is now stronger than themselves. If you don't practice hard, you will be ridiculed by Sanji for a while. Especially Luffy. He seemed to see another obstacle on his way to establishing his authority as captain. In addition, the rising star Usopp is eyeing the position of captain. Luffy expressed that he was tired, and at the same time, the sense of urgency in his heart to become stronger became stronger. On the contrary, Usopp was not anxious about anything at the moment, but walked to Ron's side and sat down to wait for Sanji to wake up. About half an hour later, Sanji's closed eyes opened. The next second, the aura on his body surged, directly reaching the school level ultimate, that is, the level of a naval headquarters colonel. Although he has not yet reached the rank of general. But it can also be seen from Sanji's situation that he has just awakened the blood factor. Once he continues to develop it, it will not take long to reach the general level, and even reach the level close to the general star in the shortest time. After all, the blood factor in Sanji's body is very powerful. Sanji in the original work is only at Vice Admiral level, not too powerful. But after awakening the bloodline factor, his own strength suddenly reached the level of an Imperial deputy. Even if he was weaker than Admiral, he would not be much weaker. It can be seen from this that the bloodline factor in Sanji's body is very powerful, but it is just more difficult to awaken. My strength. Haha, my strength has improved a lot. So handsome, so handsome. Ron, you really didn't lie to me. I've really become a lot stronger. At this time, Sanji also noticed that his situation was different. For a moment, Sanji couldn't help but cheer. If nothing else, this situation is really embarrassing. From being the weakest member of the Straw Hat Pirates to becoming the #1 combat force, Sanji was extremely happy. Congratulations! Seeing this, Ron stepped forward to congratulate Sanji. Immediately afterwards, he pulled out the snow walkway from his waist. Come on, Sanji, let me help you test the force zone of the blood factor. After saying that, Ron slashed Sanji's arm with one blow before he could recover. Zhang! Fire flew everywhere, and Sanji's sleeve was cut, but the power of the knife was blocked by his skin. Obviously, Even if only half of the blood factor is awakened, the superhuman defense power is also awakened. Although it cannot reach the defense level of the full version that is not inferior to Auntie's body, it is not something that ordinary weapons can easily break through. Wow! Is this all okay? Oh my god, Sanji, how come your defense is so strong? Seeing this situation, Usopp exclaimed. He quickly walked forward and circled around Sanji's arm, his eyes filled with disbelief. How come? Even Sanji was stunned at this moment and couldn't believe what was happening. After all, he couldn't believe that all of this could be true. His defense was so terrifying. He didn't even mean to defend himself just now. Not bad. At this time, Ron praised, Sanji, it seems that the power of your blood factor has really turned on. Although it is only half activated, as you continue to develop, your own physique will be even more terrifying, even surpassing that of your brothers and sisters. In addition, you have eaten munch fruit. If you are training your body and practicing your kicking skills, I am sure that even the Marine Admiral will not be able to do anything to you in the future. Hearing this, Sanji smiled. He knew what Ron meant, which was to prevent himself from becoming distracted and not practicing after gaining strength. But how is such a thing possible? Although he has cheated and become stronger now, he is not completely his own. He also needs to be familiar with mastering such power, and with the existence of people like Ron. If Sanji dares to slack off, I'm afraid it won't be long before they catch up with him or even surpass him. Thinking of this, Sanji suddenly said, Don't worry. I won't relax. I will even work harder to become stronger, not only to protect everyone, but also to go back and tell those pretentious guys that I, Shan Hao, am the strongest. Speaking of this, Sanji's eyes were filled with determination. The father and brother of the Vinsmoke family are full of strong resentment. The only person in the entire family who can make him care and remember a little bit is his sister. Seeing this, Ron also laughed, walked up and patted Sanji on the shoulder and said, We will accompany you when the time comes to let them know that you are the strongest. Time flies, in the blink of an eye, the next day comes in the evening. Ron and others also successfully arrived at the Drum Kingdom in the Mary. Looking around, you can clearly see that there are many residents gathering together in the shore area at this moment, each raising their muskets and aiming at the Mary, Ron, and others. Outsiders, you are not welcome here, please leave here. Pirates, leave quickly, we don't welcome pirates like you. As the Mary approached, the people on the shore started shouting. The hatred in their eyes could not be concealed, and it was obvious that they had no favorable impressions of pirates. Seeing this, Luffy and others, who were walking out with Nami on their backs, looked ugly. After all, Nami's condition is extremely bad now. If she doesn't enter the island to find a doctor, Nami's condition will definitely be extremely dangerous. Everyone. But being angry, Ron still remained rational. He knew why these guys were so hostile to pirates. The Drum Kingdom was previously brought into chaos by Wapol and others, and countless people died. Thinking of this, Ron stepped forward and said, We don't have any ill intentions towards you. We are here to seek medical treatment. Our companion is sick and is in extreme danger now. She urgently needs a doctor to treat her. Please allow us to go in and treat her, or ask a doctor to come and treat her. As long as my companion's illness is cured, how about we just leave this place and never set foot here again? As soon as these words came out, Luffy and others looked expectantly at the people on the shore. After all, they don't really want to take action unless they have to. The most important thing is that this matter is essentially to save Nami, and they don't want to delay here. No. Impossible. A pirate's partner is a pirate, and we will never treat a pirate. Yes, pirates all deserve to die, all of them deserve to die. It would be best if she died of illness. However, the people on the shore did not buy it at this moment. While everyone was shouting, they did not hide their hostility, and even wished Nami would die of illness like this. You. Hearing this, Luffy and others' expressions immediately turned ugly. These guys cursed Nami to die, which is definitely something they are not willing to accept and see. For a moment, their eyes were filled with anger, and they were even ready to take action. You guys really deserve to die. Even Ron was furious at this moment. Although he knew that there was a reason for what these guys did, Ron couldn't hide the murderous intention in his heart after listening to their words. Because he was persecuted by Wapol and others for his own incompetence, it is now acceptable to be hostile to pirates. But they have no grudges against this group of people. They treat her like this just because of her identity as a pirate. They even treat the patient Nami as if she wishes she would die. This is the real stupidity. Taking one step forward, Ron was so angry that he pulled out Shuezo from his waist and was about to take action. Suddenly, a special force swept out of Ron's body and directly impacted the area on the shore. Thump! Thump! In an instant, a resident named Xiao fell into a coma. In just a few breaths, the people on the shore were completely unconscious. Seeing this situation, Luffy and others who were about to move behind were all stunned. They subconsciously looked at where Ron was, their eyes full of astonishment, confusion. Conquerors! Ron, on the other hand, was extremely excited at the moment after being in a daze for a while. 0.9 Conquerors! He actually has Conquerors too. And it was really unexpected that Conquerors was awakened under such circumstances. But soon, Ron calmed down. The so-called Conquerors are a group of existences that are awakened only by those who are unwilling to fall and want to dominate. I don't know if he had such a talent before, but from the moment he made up his mind to become the king of the world, he should indeed have such a talent. Thinking of this, the corner of Ron's mouth raised and he said, Usopp, drive the melee and wait for us in the outer sea area. Luffy, Zoro, Sanji and I took Nami to the doctor for treatment. Good. Hearing this, Usopp nodded. He knew the hostility of the residents towards them, and it was impossible for Muridu to dock here. Therefore, stopping in the offshore area is the best choice, and Ron and others enter it to find a doctor to treat Nami, which is also the best choice. After all, with their current strength, it is impossible for anyone to threaten them on the island. Let's go. Soon, the Mary began to retreat. Ron stepped forward, picked up Nami, and directly used Moonwalk to fly towards the island. Seeing this, Luffy, Zoro and Sanji also followed closely behind. Soon, a few of them entered the island. Not paying attention to the unconscious people, they entered the island directly. After making some inquiries, Ron and the others flew directly towards the top of the mountain where Chopper lived. Ron, what was your previous method? The rapid form was in the snow, and Luffy asked curiously at this moment, why did the people on the shore faint all of a sudden?